Hi, I'm Old Sneelock. Welcome to another episode of Old Sneelock's Workshop. I'm out in the shop today. I've got the garden, we'll say 70% finished. It's too cold to have the plants sitting out at night, so I've got them in the garage right now. It's about 9 o'clock in the morning, and it's cold. It's about 50 outside. Not bad here in the shop. The shop tends to warm up a bit. And as the sun hits the green walls, it's going to warm up more. I'm going to get back to the crane project. I think what I have to do is I tightened up the trolleys before I tightened up the track. So I tightened up the trolleys and then I tightened up the track, and I think that's why I've got a bind. So I'm going to go up and loosen up the track and see if I can get the trolleys to move back and forth a little better, and see if we can't get things adjusted so I get this one section of track straight. Thought before I get everything up there and have to go through and do the whole thing, I'm going to try a sample. It's a lot of ladder moving, and I don't want to find out that, well, I've done the whole thing wrong and I got to take both sections of track down. This is an experiment. I've never done this before in this small scale. Usually I've worked with a crane that's about 15 to 20 tons and set those up, and that is a whole different process. There you're cutting things to size and putting them up, and you build the building, and then you put the crane in the building as part of the building. So this is a different thing. I'm working with some lightweight structure. I mean, the Versatube building is supposed to be fairly strong, and I've added some bracing to it to make it a little bit stronger yet. But it's not what I would consider a good factory building. It's a little crooked. I laid it out as straight as I could and got everything lined up as well as I could. But I found as I was going along that the parts aren't consistent as far as length. And the positioning of especially the two side rails that have the verticals on it, that the rafter sidewalls, the lower leg of the rafter drops over that and sets the distance between the rafters. That's a welded on tube, and that's fixed. They vary up to an inch, which is not what I consider an acceptable variance. And I thought perhaps I had a situation where I had one turn 180 degrees from where it was supposed to be. So I measured it and laid them out. They don't match. You set them side by side, they don't match either way you go. So is what it is. I'm having to work with it. There's an old saying among the building trades that if you don't have the foundation straight, you're going to fight it all the way to the peak. And I think that's what I'm running into right now. I managed to get all the sheathing on it by doing some Kentucky windage and having to allow for things and change things around a little bit. But now I'm trying to attach things to that, which would not be a problem if I was hanging a single fixture in the center, like the lights. Lights are no worry. They go where they go, and if they're off an inch, it doesn't matter. Track on the crane, it's a problem. So I'm going to go up. Like I said, I'm going to loosen the trolleys up and then try and see if I can get everything loosened up to move, and we'll go from there. Another thing I ran into, the length of the elevator bolts that I made up. These are 3/4 inch elevator bolts. This is 1.5 inch elevator bolt. The elevator bolts, the 3/4 inch elevator bolts, they call them 1 inch, but I think that's an overall length, are just a hair too short. By the time I stacked up the bolt, the washer, and the thickness of the track, I didn't engage the nylon enough to make it lock. Now, a crane, or a hoist in this case, bridge crane, vibrates. It's just the nature of the beast. It's going to shake and it's going to rattle. You need to have a way to lock these bolts down. I didn't want to double nut them, and nylon bolts are very good. I've used them many times. but they have to engage the thread. If the nylon stops short of the thread, they don't work. So my original estimate of the length, back when I was just looking at something going, I wonder how that'll work. I thought these were going to be plenty. I didn't want to have a whole lot of bolts sticking up out of the top to catch on things. I'm going to have some sticking out the tops. Just no way around it. That's what's going to happen. Now, once I get the first one up, I can say, okay, I got to cut this much off, put it on the bandsaw, cut off the bolt, and do all that. But I think it really won't matter in the long run because these are up. You can see that they're far short of running into anything up here because this track is clear over here. This is running in open air. Now, I'm going to have a power cord for running the crane. If I see that that's going to be an issue, I'll deal with it at the time. But I think I'm going to be okay doing it this way. At least that's the plan. And you know how plans go. They never survive contact with the enemy. We'll just have to see how it works. But to make these into elevator bolts, I once again have to grind off the head of the bolt so that it's flat. That way the trolley rollers don't hit the top of that. I tried just cutting off the sides of it, thinking that, well, the trolley will go past it, but the trolley has movement inside the track. It can shift back and forth about 1/8 of an inch. By the time I precisely machine away the edges so that I'll have enough clearance, I've gotten the head so that the reinforced part is hanging over the open spot on everything, so it's really not doing me any good. Might as well grind them like this. Okay, got those ready to go. Made a big difference when I loosened up the track. I had the bolt tighter on one side than I did on the other, and that caused that track to tilt. I think I'm going to need an extra guide on this track just to make sure things are working right. I think I need a rub block. Problem I'm seeing is this track has about 5 inches of travel before it binds. If they get out of square with each other, more than a half inch. Well, while I was up on top, the camera stopped. So I didn't record the problems I was having getting this thing to move down the track and all the adjustment and turning screws and everything else I did while I was up there. So you don't get to see me being quite as frustrated. But that's okay. You don't really want to see me frustrated. Right now, I'm moving the ladder down the track. And to do that, I have to move the crossbeam. And I think I'm going to have to be up top to move the crossbeam. So it's just going to be a lot of back and forth, up and down, up and down. I'm going to try something. The bottom of these rollers are up inside the track. So since this piece of angle is touching the bottom of the rollers, that means it's going to hit the outside of the track. This will provide a rub rail. So I'm going to cut a hole in here with the bandsaw so that I can set this up onto the bolt holding the trolley on, and then set this up so that it doesn't let the trolley wobble. Now, I'm thinking I want to put some kind of a plastic or something on this, but for right now today, just a rough guess, I think I'm going to be okay just using the steel on steel and seeing if it's going to work at all. Because the other option is to make a long piece and put 2 trolleys on it so that they're about this far apart. And then the 2 trolleys would tend to self-center. But that would involve buying another set of trolleys, and I'm still not sure it's going to work. So before I spend the money on it, I'm going to try this way, just to get an idea if the engineering is going to make it work. I'm going to cut a slot in this piece of angle iron, but first I'm going to drill a hole in there so that I have a starting point to saw to, so have a nice rounded down the end on it. All cut through and ready to give it a shot. Well, after going in the house, having lunch, spending the afternoon working on the garden, I've had a great supper, and I'm out here to try and catch up a little bit on the stuff that I haven't gotten done. The garden has come along far enough that I can step away from it for a little while. We'll do more on it in the morning, but I think it's going to be reasonably good. Still got more work to do, but you know, it's one of those jobs that's never done. Because, hey, could we put another flower here? Could I add a statue there? It's going to be a long haul getting it to where she wants it. But I've got my piece of angle iron that I'm going to go up and try and see if that'll take care of the wobble and binding on the track, and we'll go from there. I have a need for another one on the other side, so I'll cut that one too. Except this time I'm going to use the grinder instead of the bandsaw. I still got a little bit of alignment to do. The track on the far side was quite a ways out of whack, and I still got to move that end in, but it's 9 o'clock, it's getting late, I'm going to go in the house. But again, it's moving now. It was locked up to the point where it wouldn't move at all. One of the things that I found was when I tightened up the clamps, I tightened up one side more than the other, so I ended up rotating the track. By rotating the track, I tightened up the spot in between them. Because you go in like this and then you tip it like that, it makes it narrower in here. So I got that leveled out, and that helped. Then I bolted a piece of angle up to the trolley, see if I can get that thing to not slide sideways. And it works, but the angle iron's got a little too much friction to it. So I think I'm going to have to work on that. It's either that or else I build a second set of, I put up a second set of trolleys on the back side of the cross beam, keep those two aligned. I think I should have had probably a bar up there with 2 trolleys on it, and then the tracks suspended between them. But I don't, and I'm going to do with what I have. Just a lot of back and forth, back and forth, back and forth to get things lined up where they're supposed to be. I'm not done. I don't know when it will be done with this particular project, but I've branched out and done a few other things along the side, so this isn't totally a pit that's sucking me down. Rather unhappy about the whole situation, but I guess you just got to take what you get. If you have any suggestions on how I can make this better, I'm all ears. If you have any suggestions for new video, questions about today's video, or any of the other videos on the channel, just drop a note in the comments. You know I read them all. Thanks for watching.
This video is not to be viewed by anyone under the age of 13 in the U.S. or 16 in the European Union without the express written permission of the parents or the legal guardians of the underage person. Such written permission must be on file at the local government entity in charge of enforcing the rules and regulations established by the FTC. Anyone violating these terms is admitting by default that they hold harmless the owners and operators of this channel. Any and all questions should be addressed to your local branch of the FTC.